in Atlanta. I had an encounter with a gentleman, and then I decided not to use a condom during the encounter. So I got scared. I went to the doctors and I got on PrEP for the first time. I'm taking PrEP and I'm taking care of my body. Life is way more than just sexual transmitted infections. And biomedical prevention is really the utilization of medication to reduce HIV incidences. I'm also openly polyamorous. People are not great at monogamy. PrEP is a biomedical prevention for everybody. For my cis women out there that are listening, I think it's really important that, hey, this is not just a gay thing. This is actually for you too. So take care of your bodies.
We're back for Season 8 of the Confessions podcast. And this time, it's the PrEP edition. HIV cases may be dropping overall, but not for the Latino community in the United States. Even though more people know about PrEP, too many are still missing out on this game-changing protection. This season isn't just about PrEP. It's about sex, sexuality, intimacy, and desire. We're talking sex, pleasure, identity, and everything in between, from kinks and fetishes to how PrEP fits into real people's lives. This is where the stories get raw, honest, and unapologetically hot. Whether you're curious, cautious, or already living your PrEP life, this season is for you. Turn up the volume, lean in close. Welcome to Confessions, the PrEP edition.
My name is Miguel Bujanda. I'm the executive director of Reach LA, age 47. I am a cis male, and I am my pronouns are he, him, him, and I'm gay. Well, I was born in East LA, in El Sereno. That's where my mom came when she came to the United States. And we migrated into the area of Monterey Park and moved further east to San Gabriel, where I grew up and went to high school at. Then we moved into Hacienda Heights. But now I'm back living in downtown Los Angeles now, and hopefully moving back into East LA, my first home. Yeah, I've been working in HIV prevention since 1997, so a little bit over 27 years. Primarily working with prevention services with Latino MSM, YMSM, young men who have sex with men. I've been doing it for a while, but I think one of the more important things to realize is that my journey started off because I really wanted to create a social network for myself with other gay men, because I was in the closet in high school. I wanted to fit in, to find a community. I joined a local nonprofit here in East Los Angeles, and then eventually I realized that my uncle, my tío, Elazar, was HIV positive, and unfortunately he passed away really quickly because he really wasn't taking care of himself, and he had very little family support. His immediate family support was not there, and he died in the year 2000. And it was the first person I knew who had HIV. The first person who passed away from HIV was family. I was about 21 or 22 when he passed away. So I first learned about PrEP was during one of the many meetings in regards to his biomedical prevention method, right? We talked about condom usage and other methods of reducing risk for HIV, but this new pill came out. But obviously it was in a trial period. They had first heard about PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis, and I think it was really important for people to start learning a little more about it. I never personally had to use it. I didn't find myself in situations of having to use it. But when learning more about it, I was doing capacity building actually at APLA when I learned about it. And it was actually in Atlanta at a meeting that we had. It was groundbreaking. It was like, oh, wow, cool. Like something different, something new, maybe something that can be hopefully easily accessed by community and accepted by community. In Atlanta, when I learned about it, I had an encounter with a gentleman. I was in a relationship at the time, and the thing was I was using condoms at that time because I was not on PrEP. I was just learned about it, right? And then I decided not to use a condom during the encounter also. When I came back on the trip, I had realized that we really didn't talk about serostatus. So I asked him, and he was very, very not trying to tell me that he was positive. So I got scared. I went to the doctors and I got on PrEP for the first time. I realized that at the LA Gay Lesbian Center, they were offering a research study for PrEP. And I asked if I could sign up for it. So I diligently tried to get onto it because the doctors were not prescribing it yet. So I got into a research study at the LA Gay Lesbian Center in 2014. At that point, that's when I started PrEP. So even at the dismay of my partner at the time, who really also wanted to be on PrEP, but really couldn't have the opportunity because it had to be a research study. So he had to find his own research study to join to get onto PrEP. Before it was prescribed by regular doctors or just general practitioners or infectious disease specialists, I started with a research study to just in regards to adherence and just, how it was being accepted by community. I'm part of the generation of Truvada whores, where everyone will start talking about like people on PrEP are just more, oh my God, like they're just doing PrEP so they can have condomless sex, when we all know that 75% of people do not use condoms 100% of the time when they use condoms as their main method of prevention. Things could happen from relationships, monogamy, other things to reduce risk, but ultimately using condoms all the time wasn't always the thing. To now this day and age where biomedical prevention is definitely different. It's another method to protect yourself. I think disclosure of HIV has changed a lot. I would hope, as somebody who's not HIV positive, I hope for individuals who are HIV positive feel more empowered to be able to openly talk about their status, because at this point it's like you're either on a pill before you get HIV or on a pill or after you get HIV, right? I remember I went on a date with somebody, first date, and we liked each other. And the first thing he said to me was, I have two things I need to tell you. One, I don't do monogamy. And I was like, okay, cool. We could talk about that in a moment. And then the other thing is like, and I have something else to tell you. And I understand if you don't want to date me anymore. And I responded with, you don't have to tell me that. It's okay. I'm taking PrEP and I'm taking care of my body. So as long as you're taking care of yours, that's the most important part. So you don't have to worry about disclosing. Did tell me he was HIV positive. He was undetectable. And we had a very healthy relationship for 4 years. I think at this point, serial status is definitely not a deal breaker. And if it's anything, it's great. How often do you go to the doctor? Are you getting STD tested? Are you checking your viral load and making sure that you're adhering to your medication? Can we support each other on making sure that we're taking each other's medication? Right now, I'm taking my PrEP. I think my current primary partner and I had a discussion where he saw me taking a pill, but he didn't know what pill it was. And then he realized, like, that's not one of the pills I take. He's HIV positive. And I said, oh yeah, this is PrEP. He's like, oh, you're on PrEP? We didn't even bother having the conversation of disclosure. I think I might overheard him tell me during a conversation how he had been positive for so many years and he's been undetectable, but he never asked me about mine. And I think for us, it was very comfortable to say, hey, are you seeing a doctor? Are you taking care of yourself? Was the more important question. Because it's obvious that if you are undetectable, if you're adhering to PrEP, you're rigorously going to the doctor every several months to get tested anyways. So you're actually in care. You're actually taking care of yourself on the medical side. And that's the most important part, because there's a lot more things that could hurt us than just HIV, right? Diabetes, high blood pressure. I'm 47 years old. I need to make sure my partner is knowing that I'm taking care of myself outside of just HIV, because life is way more than just sexual transmitted infections. I think somebody who actually rejects people because of HIV status, it's actually a little bit more frowned upon, at least in the scenes that I'm part of, right? Like, oh, you don't want to date them because they're HIV positive? There's PrEP, there's things you can take care of. The undetectability means untransmittable. Like, educate yourself, I think it's that type of conversation. There hasn't been somebody who's HIV negative that I know, friends-wise, that has not dated somebody HIV positive. It's more accepted. It is just, are you on the pill before or are you on the pill afterwards? It's really that type of attitude amongst my peers. Now, I could see somebody who's newly out. I know people that are very still dedicated to utilizing condoms and will only use condoms, only have sex with somebody with a condom. And that's great. That works for them and they feel more comfortable. There's probably reasons why they can't be on a biomedical method, right? They're either kidney levels or whatever, or they're kind of concerned about taking medication in general. So you have to respect that. But at the same time, I see people on profiles like, where are the guys that actually still use condoms? Because condoms are not, in the circles that I've participated in, are not the method of prevention. It's usually a biomedical method of prevention because they just opt out of using condoms. I mean, a lot of my friends would joke like, what's a condom? It's kind of like, it's a very antiquated terminology among them. Everybody knows what condom is. I think condoms are still relevant. They're still applicable and they help reduce STD infections. But with the introduction of Doxy and PrEP and all those type of things, there's definitely ways to test your cells regularly enough to find out if you have an infection to stop the spread of infections. And biomedical prevention is really the utilization of medication to reduce HIV incidences or help individuals that are HIV positive enhance their immune system by reducing the viruses in their body, right? A person who could be positive takes antiviral medication to reduce viruses, and then we have PrEP that helps reduce the possibility of seroconverting, becoming HIV positive. It's kind of a protective barrier to your cells when you take a PrEP. I think it's very helpful to know that those are the differences. They are very similar medications, but they have the two different functions. One is to prevent, and one is to sustain and help a person live a healthy, long life. Back in the 90s, I was part of the LA party crew scene, where there was just like backyard parties and having a good old time here in East LA area. And I think having those type of scenes was really cool. It was a great way to build community. But as I got older, I lived in the West Hollywood area for a while, almost 4 years. And though that was fun, it was exhausting in the sense that there was always like, one club to another to, doing all the different things. And then eventually when I moved down to downtown, I started participating more in the leather bear scene. And then eventually, moving into areas like going into the Eagle, the Fault Line, those were the bars. I think bars like the Fault Line and Eagle can be more progressive and a little bit more accepting. Granted, there's still the ignorance that plagues every bar. But I think having venues like that and peers like that could be very helpful in being able to be supportive of PrEP. I think I remember when I was talking about being on PrEP in the beginning, being a Truvado whore, I was very vocal about it. I was on my Facebook, I was doing videos talking about it, and people would actually come and talk to me about it. And I remember even having a template for an email of how to speak to your doctor, because the doctors were calling it PrEP at the time. They're calling it its brand name, Truvada. So they needed to know the name of the medication, what was it for. It had to be for a prophylaxis. So it was definitely terminology they had to use so the doctor understood what it was going to be used for. And I literally drew up a small script for them to read to their doctor or to create an email for it. Even eventually working with, and I was doing Kaiser at the time, who's the doctor at Kaiser, what's their phone number, and how to get to them, being more deliberate in getting them into the medication. That was all helpful, but I think those communities that I'm now part of are a little bit more open. I'm also openly polyamorous, so I participate in consensual non-monogamy with my partners now. I've been practicing non-monogamy roughly about the same time I actually started PrEP, since 2014, 2015. Monogamy was a method of reducing my risk of infection for many years. Fortunately, I had that one last partner who taught me that even though he said he was monogamous, is really the reason PrEP was probably the best option for me, because he really wasn't monogamous. Infidelity was part of the relationship. It ended up being both ways. Like at some point I started breaking the rules of our agreement, and eventually PrEP was probably the better option, so it would reduce the exposure that we would give to each other since we did not use condoms. And I think it is really important to have that conversation with your partner. Being a polyamorous person, somebody that practices this consensual non-monogamy. Consensual non-monogamy could be anybody who is monogamous but is consciously and consenting in relationship with somebody else that says, hey, we're going to be open to this degree, whether it be certain agreements, 3 ways together. I don't believe in don't ask, don't tell, but there's a lot of don't ask, don't tell scenarios in relationships. I mean, our tios and tias did this all the time, right? And I think it's one of those important to realize that having sexual agreements would be extremely beneficial to whatever your relationship style is, whether you're gay, straight, bi, queer, trans, and however you identify with your relationship. If you have sexual agreements that you can develop, agree upon, assess, and revisit from time to time. People are not great at monogamy. It's not an easy thing for men to do, or people to do in general. What I tell people is that agreements are not rules. Agreements need to be revisited, and agreements need to be bent sometimes to adjust to the need of the relationship, and that needs to evolve. Your relationship on day 1 is not the same relationship in year 5. Things evolve and change. So you need to be able to have those openly, kind of sometimes uncomfortable conversations. As a polyamorous person, I take it a step further in the sense of I actively engage in not just sexual relationships outside of my primary relationship, but I also have other relationships. I'm currently in a polyamorous relationship that I'm a hinge. A hinge is a person that has two separate relationships with two individuals. My primary partner, Dale, and my other partner, Matthew, they're both my partners. We don't practice hierarchy. So just because Dale has been designated as my primary partner doesn't mean he is above Matthew. It means that it's kind of like a linear type of relationship. Like I have my time dedicated with Matthew. I have my time dedicated with Dale. But there are some times that Matthew and Dale decide to hang out with me at the same time, and we just hang out. I think it's important to realize that they both consent. They're both comfortable. I always get that question. Do they know about each other? And I always laugh. I'm like, they're in a picture together, sitting with me. What do you think they know about each other? They do. When I was 17, 18 years old and I started dating, my first boyfriend was in high school. I think all relationship structures, that's what I learned, monogamy was the way. But I also realized that monogamy was very hard to sustain because everybody I knew cheated on somebody, or they broke up because they were unfaithful, whatever it be. I was okay with monogamy. I say okay, like the practice or being faithful in my relationships for the most part. There were times I definitely slipped up, and I know my partners also slipped up at the time. I always say if you were in a relationship for a very long time, 5-6 years, and you cheat maybe once or twice, you're pretty good at monogamy. It's the ones that just cannot and cheat all the time. But humans were just bad at monogamy. When I turned 40 years old, I learned that I wanted to practice, more consensual non-monogamy. Even earlier than that, I kind of practiced. I was interested more in consensual non-monogamy, polyamory type of relationships. And I realized that I have more healthy communication and discussions with my non-monogamous partners than I ever did with any monogamous partners. The amount of fear, embarrassment, shame about wanting to have sex with other people was always hard to do with somebody that you're supposed to love and be faithful and committed to. But now I have this relationship with Matthew and Dale, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a hot guy that I want to get with when I'm heading to, whatever city I'm going to go to, and we're going to hang out and we're going to play all weekend. And their reaction is like, oh, it's awesome. I hope you have fun. And they're being sincere about it. And they're celebrating my excitement. They're excited for my excitement. It's called compersion. It's a polyamory term. And I think it's really cool that they're supportive of that. Ultimately looking at it as like, what will make my partner happy? And if it's not me, that's okay. I don't want to be somebody's everything. That sounds exhausting. I think I want to be somebody's important thing. Like I want them to, I want them to be able to value and cherish me. But at the same time, if I am not around, it's okay for you to do what makes you happy, whether it be reading a book, going to take a dance class, getting a massage, getting a better type of massage. If that makes you happy and it's not interrupting or impeding in my life, then why tell them no? It's interesting. I saw one of those reels from RuPaul, and RuPaul was talking about being in an open marriage. What RuPaul said was, I love my husband so much that why would I want to say no to him? And if that even included him having sex with somebody else, why say no? If I really love him, why would I restrict him from anything? That resonated with me because even to this day, when it's brought up that one of my partners is going to go do something, I always tell him, like, I don't want to say no to you, but I think it's important for me to still share how I feel or my thoughts about it on why it's probably not the best idea in my opinion. But this doesn't mean that you can't do it. You need to be your own judge and decide how you want to live your life. I do have certain boundaries. There's certain individuals that I don't want my partners to engage with. Don't engage with people that I work with. I don't think that's the best. I think there's boundaries. Maybe his closest friends, like, hey, I don't want you to mess around with my best friend. I think that would be weird. I think those are reasonable boundaries to have. I think it's important to realize that if you're old enough and you're consenting enough to engage in sex, you should be able to talk about it. We find a lot of shame in discussing sex. And I'll tell you from experience, talking about my sex life or talking about my desire, my wants and needs outside of my relationships can sometimes be a little embarrassing to the person that I love. I get nervous, I get antsy, I still feel like I have to hide. I grew up having to hide these desires and feelings because I practiced monogamy for such a long time. But now I have the opportunity, which now becomes an issue. It's like, well, why can't you just tell me? That's what we've kind of like established. I feel still a little embarrassed telling you. I feel a little embarrassed telling you my fantasy that I kind of don't need you to fulfill, that I could go get it somewhere else. And then I don't want to make you feel bad that I don't want to include you. Like, it's all those type of feelings. And I think engaging in those type of conversations are vital to sustaining our relationship. Being able to even follow up and talk to each other is like, hey, I know you're going out away for a week and you're going to probably be playing around. Are you on your medication? Are you taking your PrEP? Are you taking your doxy? Do you have enough doxy? If not, here to give you extras. I think it's really important to have those type of conversations when it comes to protecting each other. There's other ways to protect each other by not shaming somebody and not hurting somebody. Is giving them the resources or giving them the encouragement to, like, I love you very much. I want you to enjoy yourself and be safe. Here, let me support you on this. Because the reality is, people don't lie to us because they're bad people. They usually lie to us because they're afraid of the consequences of the truth. People say, I want to have sex with somebody, and tell somebody that in a monogamous relationship, that could be a huge deal breaker. Versus, I'm just going to hide this. And then if they do it, even more so, they're going to hide it because they know. I say to individuals I date, like, look, you sleeping with other people is not a deal breaker for me. And that weirds people out. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it doesn't. Even when I did monogamy, I didn't think sleeping with other people was a deal breaker. I thought the lying about it was the deal breaker. And I think that's where people feel betrayed. They had sex with somebody else. They lied about it. But how did I contribute to them having to lie about it? Because if I told them that if you cheat on me, I'm going to break up on you, guess what? They're going to lie to you. You've given them consent to lie to you because you told them what the consequence is going to be. I've been with Dale for almost 3.5 years now. I've been with Matthew for about 1.5 years. So this is not just like, oh, little phase, little time. These are actually long-term relationships. If I decide to have other relationships, I can. I'm limited on time. I'm trying to be a new dad. I run a company. My time is limited. It's also being realistic on what one can do and cannot do. Am I having more sex as a polyamorous person than I did as a monogamous person? Well, I mean, when monogamy, you're stuck with just one person, right? So it really depends on their mood, their interest, and, do they prepare to have sex? But as a polyamorous person, my options are a little bit more open. So I have more variety. So I can have sex with one partner 1 week or have sex with both of them in the same week. Since I'm in an open polyamorous relationship, could have sex with outside partners. So I think my options are different now. They're a little bit more open. But doesn't mean that I don't get busy 1 week and I don't have sex at all. I don't have sex with any of them. And though the options are all there, I just don't take the opportunity to do so. Do I have more sex? Inconclusive. Can I have more sex? Yes. And it's just really a matter of trying to organize my time and schedule. Being consensually non-monogamous has opened, again, the communication to be able to say, hey, I think I was exposed, or I got a little bit of a symptom. I have to go to get checked out. So we're going to pause. We're not going to have sex until I find out what it is or until I finish my treatment. I think it's easier to talk about other STIs and how they play a role in relationships as a polyamorous person or somebody who's non-monogamous. I think it increases communication. Being a non-monogamous, you have to have great communication with your partners because everybody wants to know what's going on. They want to know where they stand and what type of relationship you're in. And STIs are no different in saying like, hey, you obviously are with other people. I'm with other people. So I may have been exposed or I just tested positive for chlamydia, gonorrhea, whatever it be. I need to take my medication, so I'm not able to play right now. I think that typically happens a lot more during this stage of my life. And I could say like maybe it's because of the increased communication because I'm pretty transparent and open about it. Like, hey, I have 2 other partners or I do this. And I'm not as shameful as I was before. I will say that in this stage of my life, I find it more common for people to text me, hey, I just tested positive for this. You should get yourself checked. That common courtesy of just a check-in because they know they've engaged with you in the last couple of weeks or whatever it be, You may not even be part of the time frame, but they're still being considered because when you build trust, they care about you. You're not going to judge them. Thank you very much for letting me know. I'll go get it checked out. Please let me know when you're done with treatment. Maybe we could hang out again. I also do realize that people who are more sexually active tend to take a little bit more accountability for their own sexual health. And they're like, yeah, I fucked around. I did this and I got exposed to this. And let me go and share it with the person. It's those individuals where you gave me something. It's like, no, y'all, you took it and you took it well. We got to be more self-accountable, self-aware of our behavior, and that if we engage in activities that could put you at risk for bodily fluids that may transmit bacterial viral infections, then there's a risk, and that's okay. And if you don't want to call it a risk, is that you have a potential exposure to these infections. If people were a little bit more accountable, everyone loves to blame everybody else. Everybody does. We're not using that language. Take accountability for our behaviors, because if you put the responsibility on others, you will drastically reduce your methods of prevention in many ways. Like really putting it on them to realize like, hey, I could empower myself and take care of my body. I think it's sad that we still have this mentality of blaming others. I mean, politics don't help at all. Everybody loves to blame the other side. And I think everybody likes to not take responsibility for things that they decide to do. Sex is fun. It feels good. Why do we make it such a blame game when you enjoyed it just as much as I did? Especially when, you like the person, you love the person. I just don't like it when people get into this he gave it to me or blaming other people. I don't think it's productive. I don't think it's beneficial. Our job is to help people be self-sustaining and really taking care of themselves. Accountability is a big part of that. When I first heard about DoxyPEP and when I decided to jump on it was, I heard about it through my primary partner. He had told me that he was taking DoxyPEP for a completely unrelated scenario. It was acne. If you have really bad acne, sometimes you take doxycycline and it helps reduce all the swelling and the pain to the pimples, whatever it would be. So what ended up happening was he told me, and I have not had an STD in the last 5 years since I started doing this. And I'm like, I wonder why. He's like, I think it's all the medication I'm taking. That was the conversation we had. That's not the reason why I got on Doxy. When I heard that DoxyPEP started, it kind of verified what he was talking about. He had a certain amount of antibiotics in his body that didn't allow the bacteria to reproduce in his body. So then I quickly asked my doctor, hey, can I get on Doxy? There was no guidance from the states to administer Doxy yet. So in April 2023, at the biomedical conference in Vegas, and I read a report that California had just released guidance on how to use doxycycline. I immediately sent the article to my doctor and I said, hey, California has just administered the guidance this week. Please review and please prescribe me doxycycline. I think it was really fascinating that the doctor knew, but he couldn't prescribe, and it kind of made me feel a little crazy. Which gets me mad about the medical system is that doctors will prescribe you things, but they want to be the ones to really tell you how to use it. And I think it's important for us to educate our community to say, hey, you could advocate for yourself. You don't need to have a doctor and a nurse advocate for you all the time. You could say, hey, I understand this, I know this. So working with organizations like Reach LA or just organizations in general to say, hey, how do I speak to my doctor is a very important question, because I think having that language to be able to use, knowing to call the medication Descovy or Truvada versus, oh, I need to get PrEP. Most people that are not infectious disease doctors probably don't know what PrEP is. So be very specific. Doxycycline, why you need to take a doxycycline? Know the research. It doesn't create resistance because it doesn't allow the bacteria to get into the body, because it doesn't allow it to replicate. Knowing these type of things about the medications and empowering yourselves will be helpful, because I think a lot of people watch TikTok or Instagram reels and they're like, oh, I got educated, I know what it. Girl, calm down. No, you don't. Look at the information and speak to people who have experienced it and how it worked for them. experience it, have that conversation, build a rapport with your doctor. And if you're not able to build a rapport with your doctor, at least have the language of what to say to make yourself more powerful in the eyes of the medical field. I find it challenging to talk about my sexual practices and my relationship status because one of the questions that the doctor asked during the screener is how many partners you've had. And, he asked, like, are you in a relationship? Assuming it's monogamous, right? And he never asked that. And then he asked how many sexual partners you have. And then I lowball myself because I'm afraid he's going to say something. Then he tells me immediately after that, well, you still need to use condoms. Now he's sounding judgy and judgmental. And then he's like, and don't forget, you need to take your pill every day. I'm like, yes. And with knowing that adherence can be a challenge, but you offer me no assistance with adherence for the medication. I think it's all jacked up. I think it sucks the way that I'm asked these questions, but luckily it's me. I have a sense of humor, and I'm just like, just give me the pills. I think it's important for organizations like Reach LA to offer these type of services and what medical providers should do. I think the big hospitals and clinics have an issue with treating them as numbers. Big institutions have a big challenge of building relationships with their clients. I think organizations like Reach LA that offer more specialized care services, PrEP services from community by community, utilizing our telehealth services. The providers are individuals that hear this all the time. They specialize in people who are sexually active that are potentially exposed to HIV or STDs in very similar fashions. So they're not going to tell them something they haven't heard before. I think when you go to a general practitioner that doesn't have that experience on a day-to-day, they're kind of like, oh, you're a slut. That so blinds them to actually giving comprehensive care. I think doctors have a really tough time prescribing PrEP because they assume that's for a certain type of community member. They will stigmatize it, maybe a sex worker, a prostitute, or somebody who's just promiscuous that doesn't care about themselves. I think when a doctor utilizes this type of judgment, it sadly can really turn people off to going back to see that doctor and get that medication. It makes them feel ashamed or embarrassed. And like I share my personal experience, I don't care what the doctor says. A lot of people are still afraid of these biases or the stigma that they hear. We need to empower people in the knowledge of why things work or they don't work. If monogamy works for individuals and that's your method of prevention, that is great. But that's only you. You can't control your partner. You can't control what they're doing 24/7. If you want to let love protect you, then fine, but there is still a risk. If you are engaging in condomless sex, you're still potentially exposed to other infections, whether you like to admit it or not. That is why I got on PrEP. That is why I got on Doxy, and that's why I'll continue just being active and taking care of my sexual health. I think through my PrEP journey is really just holding myself accountable. It's really taught me to share this with the staff here and just my friends in general, is like to be accountable for their behavior. If their behavior is beautiful, it's wonderful. Sex is wonderful. It's great. We shouldn't be ashamed to do something that we enjoy. And I think it's really influenced me to be able to say, hey, I like this. I enjoy this. How do I take care of myself? How do I protect the people I'm engaging with? And how do I spread the education and the message of like, hey, you could do this too if you want to. I think it's really helped influence being more owning what I do. It's allowed me to share that information with people that I care about. I would say that if you ever engage in a relationship, whether monogamous or you're single and you have sex and you don't use condoms 100% of the time, you should consider getting on PrEP. You should consider getting on DoxyPEP. Why? Because at one time that you may engage in a wonderful, amazing experience with somebody you care about, or maybe not so much care about, don't even know, but you enjoy it, you may have an inconvenience of an STI that you need to deal with. It's not the end of the world. It's just a huge inconvenience. I know you have way more better things to do than go to a doctor to go get a shot or some extra pills. So consider it, find out about it, come out, check out our Reach LA, we'll get you some on PrEP. PrEP is a biomedical prevention for everybody. And I think the population that is needed to look more into it are cis women, because we understand that a lot of people are still resistant to jumping onto the bandwagon to prevent themselves. I think this is a very empowering thing for people to do, to really take ownership of their bodies. And this is another way. I admire women that have been able to utilize birth control and take it upon themselves and say, hey, I'm empowering and taking care of my body. This is another method to do so. For my cis women out there that are listening, I think it's really important that, hey, this is not just a gay thing. This is actually for you too. So take care of your bodies. I know there's going to be different methods of administering PrEP, from the pills, now also the injectables. There's definitely some pros and cons to it. Pill form is, we forget. I think when it comes to injectable, I know the injection can cause a bit of pain, potentially a lump. The pros is that if you only have to do it every other month or twice a year, that could really help people avoid the adherence issue. The injectable options are Aptitude is the medication from Vive, and Lenny will be the one for Gilead. If you're interested to learn more and to get on PrEP, please visit us at reachla.org.
This season, we talked more than just protection. We got into identity, intimacy, fetishes, and the real ways PrEP shows up in our daily lives. Because sexual health isn't just about prevention. It's about empowerment, connection, and owning your desires. Thank you for listening, for leaning in, and for daring to have these conversations with us. Season 8 was brought to you by the Los Angeles Family AIDS Network in collaboration with Reach LA. Be safe, stay sexy, and keep talking.